The Sovereign's Smile, deconstructing the day King Charles joked about dropping dead. The headline itself is a masterclass in modern media alchemy, transforming a single human moment into a global spectacle. King Charles jokes about dropping dead during health update. It's a phrase that stops the scroll, a blend of the morbid and the majestic that feels both startling and strangely compelling. For the British monarchy, an institution built on the pillars of dignity, continuity, and an almost mystical inscrutability, such a public and darkly humorous remark from its figurehead seems to defy centuries of protocol. It was more than a quip, it was a cultural Rorschach test. To some, it was a refreshing display of humanity from a man finally stepping into his own skin. To others, it was a jarring misstep in a carefully choreographed existence. To understand the full weight of that moment is to look beyond the 280-character summary and delve into the confluence of a man, a monarchy, and a moment in time. A moment where mortality, duty, and public perception collided. This analysis will explore the many layers of this event, from the immediate context of the king's health in the specific setting of the remark, to the deep-seated history of royal illness communication, the psychological power of gallows humor, and the profound implications for a 21st century monarchy navigating the treacherous waters of public opinion in the digital age. The moment itself, a scene set for a quip. To fully appreciate the remark, one must first reconstruct the scene. It was not made from the gilded balconies of Buckingham Palace, nor in a somber, pre-recorded address. The context was everything. King Charles III, recently discharged from the hospital after a corrective procedure for an enlarged prostate and concurrently undergoing treatment for an undisclosed form of cancer, was engaging with the public. This was the health update in its most organic form, not a press release, but a walkabout, a royal tradition of direct, albeit brief, interaction. He was meeting well-wishers and representatives of various charities. The atmosphere, while concerned, was likely one of support and encouragement. Imagine the scene. A crowd of people, their faces a mixture of deference and genuine empathy, offering the same well-intentioned refrains. "We're praying for you, Your Majesty. So glad to see you looking well. Keep your spirits up." The script of public concern is remarkably consistent. It was in response to this predictable, kind-hearted barrage that the king, according to reports, smiled and made his now famous remark. A typical exchange might have gone, "Well-wisher, you must take care of yourself, Your Majesty. We need you." King Charles, with a wry smile, "I'm all right. I've got to be, isn't it? Can't be dropping dead just yet." The crowd would have likely responded with a ripple of nervous laughter, a mixture of shock and amusement. The royal aides, trained for every contingency except perhaps for a self-deprecating joke about monarchical mortality, would have maintained their professional composure even as their internal risk assessment alarms blared. In that instant, the fourth wall of monarchy was not just broken, it was punctured with a pinprick of profound humanity. The man behind the crown. 70 years in the making of a personality. This remark did not emerge from a vacuum. It was the product of a 74-year-old man who has lived his entire life in the public eye, perpetually waiting in the wings. For decades, Prince Charles was a figure often parodied. The man who talked the plants, who had strong, sometimes controversial opinions on architecture and the environment, and whose personal life was dissected on a global scale. He was perceived as meddlesome, eccentric, and at times deeply unhappy. The transition from Prince to King Charles III is arguably one of the most significant personal and professional shifts any modern individual can undergo. Yet with his mother's passing, a curious thing happened. The constraints of being the heir, the prince in waiting who must be careful not to overshadow the monarch, evaporated. What has begun to emerge, slowly but surely, is a more relaxed, more authentically Charles version of the king. His sense of humor, long noted by those close to him, but rarely displayed so candidly in public, has begun to surface. This particular brand of humor, dry, self-aware, and tinged with the gallows, is a very British trait. It's the humor of the blitz, of stiff upper lips in the face of adversity. For a man of his generation and background, it's a natural linguistic and psychological tool. Confronted with his own mortality in the most direct way possible, a cancer diagnosis, he did not retreat into stoic silence. He deployed the armor he has likely worn in private for years. The joke was a defense mechanism, a way to acknowledge the elephant in the room while simultaneously